Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my lecture. So today we are going to continue our discussion what we started with in our previous lecture. So where we discussed about risk aversion, risk loving and risk neutral. In that particular context, we also discussed about risk premium and also we tried to calculate how to calculate the total amount of risk. So this is individuals job or individuals way of calculating. Because when we try to get into any sort of outcome or which has expected value or probability, then it is our job to calculate the expected value. And even this is true in case of public policy and public policy framework. There also we are supposed to understand even at the time of policy framework that what are the risks associated and how much premium to be given if it is insurance. And we had taken example of crop insurance or say national insurance for car insurance or for say health insurance. So these are the issues that we are really need to understand much more in details, and that's where we need to understand choice and along with the uncertainty, because these are the economic outcomes which are associated with uncertainty and which has a probability. So we began that with the help of economic tool that we borrowed from consumer behavior, and that is the utility. And in the utility, we generally take the example of say indifference curve as a measure to understand utility, and then also budget, right? So budget, for instance, budget constraint. So in budget constraint, if we have and then utility, and that's how we get the optimization. So I'm just kind of revising or reiterating what we already discussed. So in case of risk aversion, we have already know that total utility curve, it is a diminishing. It's like as quantity increases, then risk aversion persons, their utility will start declining. So now we'll see that what happens in risk loving with the risk loving persons and also the person who are neutral, like indifferent between risk and risk aversion, and with the help of marginal utility. So in this particular context, I would like to highlight that marginal utility curve, it is downward sloping in case of risk aversion, but here marginal utility is increasing. So in case of risk aversion, we have seen marginal utility is diminishing returns, and for the further details you can actually check in my previous lecture. And for marginal utility in case of risk loving is increasing. So how it goes, so let us just check that. Let's say again we are drawing the case, and imagine option B that we discussed in our last case. So option, again I'm just writing for today's case, which is option A, which has definite value, so no risk at all. So how I know how much earning that I get with the investment, or how much revenue that I can get it from that particular investment. And that say investment on fixed deposit, that also can be taken as one of the examples where no risk is associated, or recurring deposit. Say, and option B, like say in this particular context, a mutual fund or investment on the stock market, which is full of risk, and therefore either you can earn higher earning but with certain probability, because even mutual fund, they also have terms and conditions which says that the outcome is actually subject to market risk. It actually educate or inform to the customer that they need to be very careful while investing. So definitely that has the two extreme values. One, you may lose it or you may gain it quite a lot. So in option B is basically outcome or the occurrence with the probability. So there we need to calculate expected value, and here say expected value is, say X is the commodity like investment in the stock market, and we have to calculate the expected value for X. And then how do we measure risk here? So here we are trying to understand the expected utility that I'm deriving from commodity X. So this is how we do. So now the point here, how do we show the through the utilities? And here utility is increasing. So utility, say here is a utility curve with the risk, like say for option B in our example. And here again we are drawing the straight line with the 2 points, like here the maximum earning. So on the horizontal axis, as we already discussed, it's like either earning, or we can measure as wealth as well on the horizontal axis. And then on the vertical axis, we are measuring utility, right? So this increasing U shape is nothing, is like convex utility curve, which means increasing returns. As your earning increases, then your utility, your propensity to invest more will be high, and then the level of utility that you are expecting, that will be more, and therefore your utility goes up. So it is keep on increasing as your outcome means here like wealth or earning. As wealth and earning increases, then your overall utility also is increasing. So this is absolutely the case of risk loving exercise or the activities that a person will choose. So this is a utility curve, utility with actual outcome, and then this straight line is like expected utility from risky economic affairs that one individual got engaged with. So this is what how it will look like. So now similarly, like here the point, I'm taking the maximum, the difference between these two curves. So one can also show through the slope of the utility curve, and at point here, so we can show at this point the risk, say point A and point B. Between point A and B, this is what the risk that are involved, and based on this risk, premium needs to be calculated. But in this particular case, we will not talk about the premium, because risk aversion people, they actually generally buy premium. So there is no insurance of any sort of investment which is highly risky. So their premium will not come in that particular exercise much in details. But then of course this AB is a risk, amount of risk that risk-loving person has to be aware with. So now the second case that we want to discuss with the help of graphical representations, where again we are using utility curve, like utility curve here, utility along with the vertical axis, and then say again earning or wealth on the horizontal axis, and then here the straight line, which is like utility curve, which is the straight line, and which is expected utility is equals to total utility or actual utility. And therefore in this particular case, any individual will be neutral or indifferent to choose any of the points or any of the options that an individual has. So this is the second points on the risk related to risk or the outcome that has uncertainty and risk, and this is how risk aversion behavior in our previous lecture that we discussed, and this is how risk loving persons, their behavior will be while calculating the risk, right? So with the help of utility, we can actually easily calculate the difference between actual risk and then utility or expected utility from the risk and actual utility from that particular commodity or particular options like job in this case. So now let's move further. So now when we make it expected utility model collectively, and then let's have a choice under uncertainty discussion. But then here we are trying to bring adverse event and with no adverse event together, and then how the total expected utility look like. So now suppose, as we say that the moment we talk about expected utility, it is like probability, that is a probability associated with the event. So like take an example, like say probability of P, that P is a probability for the adverse event. Like say if I fall sick, so falling sick is adverse event, because if I claim for the insurance, then of course it's basically the insurance of the health insurance that we are talking about. Or I made an accident, or my car was hit by the car, another one car. So there is the car, when we are saying that, then we are talking about car insurance. So let us first assume, like suppose there is a probability which is P of the adverse event. So adverse event here is like probability of falling sick or probability of meeting an accident. So income, the second point that is very important. So income is Y regardless of the adverse event. So whether I meet an accident or I don't meet an accident, or whether I fall sick or whether I don't fall sick, my income is really, there is no correlation. So therefore income is individual. Why income is important here? Because from income, one certain fraction that I pay for the insurance premium. Therefore, I have many options. Like I can actually go ahead with buying all the insurance for all the probable events that I'm anticipating. For instance, health insurance, car insurance, home insurance. Even for if I'm going for a gym and then also or going for swimming, then I am also taking some extra sort of insurance which will also cover any sort of adverse event that I may face it due to externalities. So therefore, if I have more income, or if my income is really high, I'll go ahead with the better policy, or which whose premium is much higher. If I have less, then proportionately income, my insurance premium will be low, or I'll buy for the lower valued insurance premium. So while I say that income is indifferent than the adverse event, but then certainly income is very important when we calculate the insurance. So therefore, adverse event is independent to income level, but then insurance in anticipation of the adverse event is absolutely, there is a connection, and therefore income is very important. So now, if I fall sick, or I met an accident, or I'm hit by a car, so if I'm admitted to hospital, then there is a medical cost that are associated. So that cost will be calculated. So C that we are measuring as a cost. So when we are talking about premium for any insurance, if I want to buy for say 5 lakhs coverage for my health insurance, then premium will be calculated based on per 1,000 insurance premium. Like for instance, suppose AIM is a per 1,000 rupees of insurance. So this is the premium. And total insurance, for instance, like say I'm buying for say 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs insurance. So whatever the claim, even my claim is for 15 lakhs for getting admission. And if I have bought only up to 10 lakhs rupees of the insurance covered, or say sum assured, then definitely I'll get maximum of 10 lakhs. And beyond that 15 lakhs minus 10 lakhs, that 5 lakhs extra will go from my income or from my savings. So that total insurance amount, like that B value, is very, very important also to note it down while calculating uncertainty and when we try to make a choice out of it. So what would be the expected utility? So first is utility for the adverse event, and then another one utility that we calculate is based on with no adverse event. So first component, like say assume probability P is an adverse event. That means 1 minus P, as all of us we know that total probability, like summation of P I will be equals to 1. So from our previous examples that we had taken in context of x1 and x2 and xn. So if x1, let me again remind you, like if these are the events like x to x1 to xn and p1 to pn, then remember that pi will be equals to 1. So total summation of total probability will be equals to 1. So here, assuming the total probability will be 1, and then if P is adverse probability for the adverse event, then 1 minus P will be probability for the no adverse event. So basically we are trying to understand consumer behavior of the utility as far as risk associated with any of the product that we are talking about. And here we are talking about insurance and then accident, right? So here the consumption with the adverse event. So what would be the overall? So utility, that will be like y is the total income minus total cost, like y minus total cost, medical cost, minus MB. M is per 1,000 rupees of premium for total insurance, and B is the total insurance, right? Total amount of insurance that I'm planning to buy, like whether it is 10 lakhs or say 20 lakhs or 50 lakhs or 1 CR. So per 1,000, whatever the premium that will be there, so that will be the total premium of the total insurance purchased. So I'm sure you might have noticed that now if you see like Policy Bazaar or any other health insurance, they always say that now for every day you are paying only for 1 rupee or 2 rupee. It is starting from 1 rupee 1 rupee for your health insurance or term insurance. So that's way the advertisement actually they make it. So it is basically per unit. Premium is very important to calculate. So here I have taken per 1000, but now the advertisement example that I had taken is basically per rupee example that they are giving it, because premium per 1000 looks very high. So if you actually advertise in terms of per rupee, I mean rupee per kind of per day wise, then it looks very affordable. So that is the point that we are trying to discuss. And plus total insurance that we get it if you are hit by the car. So that is very important. It is not that 10 lakhs that I have purchased, but then whatever the insurance that I will get it, I mean from that particular event, adverse event, like say the bill is only for say 1 lakh, total cost is 1 lakh, but then out of which I got 75,000 rupees as the insurance covered. So that is the amount of B that we are talking about. So in case of consumption, utility for the consumption with no adverse event is pretty simple and clear, which is like just the total income and then total insurance premium that I'm giving. So if I have bought for 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs insurance, and premium is like say 250 rupees per 1000, and that's how it will get calculated, and that is the total insurance whether I claim or not claim. So that is a definite amount of insurance that I need to pay in a year or quarterly. So that is what it happens when consumption with no adverse event. So why we are talking about consumption is like after the insurance payment, so the amount that we are getting it, that will my consumption will be depending on that particular amount. Like Y is total income, and then entire amount of the insurance and any cost associated with insurance or the adverse event will get deducted, and then rest of the amount actually will be the consumption, and then we are trying to calculate the expected utility for that particular event. So here when we combine these two, it's like P multiplied by expected utility of adverse event, and then 1 minus P with expected utility with no adverse event. To go further, so in short this is how we write. So the detailing that we did it in our previous slide. So we defined with the adverse event and without no adverse event. So with actually fair premiums, the efficient market outcome is the insurance market is a full insurance and thus full consumption smoothing. So that is very important. So what is the fair insurance premium, or what we call actuarially fair premium, is like whatever the risk amount that we had shown, if the premium is exactly equals to that is the fair premium that we are talking about. But that is where insurance companies, say private insurance companies, they design, and then they design how they actually make it. Or for instance, if that is public sector units, they are designing the premium. Generally that premium will be more close to the fair premium, or will be exactly equals to the fair premium. So this is what we will stop here with the choice under uncertainty with the expected utility model. For more examples and for more explanations, you can use these 3 books that I have listed here. So these are the 3 books, and from the selected chapters from these 3 books that I have used. So if you go further in details, you are free to, and you are supposed to go to visit these chapters of these 3 books. And thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next class.